but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store. Out among the stacks of new releases, browsing with your future new best friends. You're gonna find a book you'll love to pieces. The girl behind the counter recommends dollar books and shelves of graphic novels. Titles old and new, you'll find them all. With action figures, board games, toys, and models to add to your new Comic Wednesday haul. The comic book store, the comic book store. 'Cause that's where the books live, but it's also much more. It's the heart of the art form that we all adore. Your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Source Material Live. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, this was supposed to be Wonder Woman week, but of course, that got delayed and delayed and delayed again, and now it's not coming out until Christmas, but that's okay. Because I've been wanting to talk about the book that we were going to do for that week for a long time now. I bought it at the comic book store little ways back, and I've just been waiting for a reason to whip it out and talk about it with our good friends here. So tonight we are talking Wonder Woman, The True Amazon by Jill Thompson. And would you believe, true believers, that this was the 2017 Eisner Award winner for Best Graphic Album, new graphic album, new graphic novel. So they call it graphic album. It's a graphic novel. It's a graphic novel, man.
I've never heard the phrase graphic album before.
Neither have I. That voice you hear, of course, is Alexis Hannah from Honeysuckle Rose Creations. How do you do, madam?
Doing good. Really glad to finally be back on the show. I've mentioned this before, that with COVID still going on and all of the Comic-Cons canceled, my social life is non-existent. So getting to be on the show with you guys is pretty much the only excuse I have to actually talk to other human beings other than my husband and my dog.
Well, yeah, it's funny. You and Chris Sheehan are both fighting for spots here, and both of you kind of have the same thing going on. Like we just want to be on the show, man. I
need to talk to people. I'm staring at a wall.
Yeah, you're both like Lucy. To take me to the show, Ricky. Like, aye. So this was published September 28th, 2016. It has a cover date of actually November 2016. And this was written and illustrated by Jill Thompson, who, this is not her first Eisner Award. She's won many others, and she's been nominated for even more. But she did win for this, and I'll tell you, it's a tale of two stories with this book, because there's the art, which I think is, it's a painted book, and it's very pretty, I think. I'll get your opinion on that momentarily. It's the True Amazon is an alternative telling of the origin of Wonder Woman. You don't ever really get to see Wonder Woman in action. This is all the kind of the background that gets her to the point where she's Wonder Woman, and then the book stops. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in detail. And so the story is really simple. It's probably one of the simplest books that I've read this year, if ever. But I gotta say, and we can start here with this. I think the artwork was very interesting. Was very pretty in spots. I think it's probably the best feature of the book. What did you think of Jill Thompson's artwork?
It's really beautiful. It looks like, I'm thinking this is mostly watercolor. I'm guessing correctly, maybe a little gouache, but it's really lovely. Bright colors, your really good use of color and lines. I'll admit some of the facial expressions got a little bizarre for me. There's a couple of close-ups of Diana where I'm just going to say it looks like her nose is kind of taken over her face. But for the most part, it is quite beautiful, and it is lovely to look at. Like I said, there's a really great use of popping colors. They take advantage of the setting in Themyscira, the island. You got the brilliant blues and greens, and all of the Amazons are wearing brightly colored clothes. It's so lovely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the use of color in this book. The book really pops.
Mm-hmm.
Diana doesn't, Diana, who's always drawn very buxom and very pretty looking in the comics, doesn't always look particularly pretty in the book. Like there were definitely moments in the book where she's drawn very awkwardly, which I actually kind of like. I like, that she wasn't a knockout from birth to death, as she's normally drawn.
Yeah. No, and there's distinguishing traits on all of the Amazons. A lot of times when we start reading Wonder Woman books, a lot of the Amazons in the background very much so kind of go into a copy and paste mode.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have Hippolyta and Diana who looks totally stand out, and you'll have maybe a couple of other signature Amazons who have distinct looks, but the rest of them, it's just like, okay, here's body type, pick your skin tone, pick your toga, done. But these, they all look really gorgeous. And like I said, I like that they had fun with the designs of the Amazons' clothes. There's a great panel where Wonder Woman's trying to get, how do you pronounce it? Aletheia, I think is how it's pronounced. Aletheia?
I believe, Aletheia. I was going with Aletheia.
Yeah, when she's trying to get her to try on this dress, and it's this beautiful flowing pink robe. And I was like, that's very well drawn, and it's a beautiful dress, and the color looks great. So I'm just saying to her, I was like, damn it, I want that dress.
So the story goes back to even before Wonder Woman was born. The story talks about the Amazons had always been there, and they raised the ire of men, and because of this, a war broke out between men and the Amazons. And I'll just read straight from the book here. They fought from their mountain home in Amazonium to Persia and Thrace. To Persia, from Thrace to Lycia, there was bloodshed and horror and cruelty. With the death of Ella, and the army of Heracles and the army of Amazons engaged in a terrible war. More armies of men joined Heracles, and soon the Amazons were cornered with their backs to the sea. The Amazons fought hard, but were exhausted and outnumbered. And so, I believe what happens here is Zeus looked down from the heavens at the battle and was impressed by Hippolyta's strength and beauty. So impressed was he that he thought he might disguise himself as one of Heracles' soldiers to be on hand when they had Hippolyta in chains.
Yeah, no matter what the storyline is, Zeus's first priority is, I wonder if I can put my dick in that.
So Hera, his wife, overheard his adulterous plan and was furious and disgusted by his arrogance. So Hera conspired with her brother Poseidon and gave Hippolyta the means to escape her husband's grasp. And so they sailed across the sea and they settled Themyscira. And that way they were away from men's eyes and more importantly, men's hands. And they raised a civilization there. And then, they talked a little bit about what happened in Themyscira and, the great works of art and literature and music and, this Amazonian culture that was allowed to thrive there in isolation. But the queen was unhappy, and so she molded a baby out of sand, and she sang a song, and the song reached, I believe it's Poseidon again, who, go ahead.
Yeah, it went to the sea, and the mermaids, or water nymphs, whatever you want to call them, heard it, and then they brought it back to Poseidon. Really interesting design on Poseidon, by the way, with the coral around his face. It's almost a little Cthulhu-ish, but I love it. And then he is so enchanted by it that he calms the sea, and then the voice carries over the whole island because now it's so quiet. So then all of the Amazons start singing it, and because they're all singing and the sea is so quiet, it is carried up to Mount Olympus and touches the hearts of the gods. By the way, I just got to ask, when you first started reading this, did you think this was going to be like a fairy tale that Hippolyta was reading to Diana? Because the early part of this is so constructed like a fairy tale. It even starts with Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, this felt like this was someone telling the story to somebody, like an audience member in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely reads that way. It also has kind of like an epic poetry feel to it. Like, it doesn't rhyme or anything. It's not in any kind of pentameter, but it has that like epic poetry feel to it.
Yeah, very much. And I think that's one of the things that helps the book really stand out. This isn't written in current tense. This isn't written from somebody's point of view.
It's not really a traditional comic book.
Yeah.
This, I mean, yes, it's a comic book. Yes, it's a graphic novel, but it feels like somebody kind of just took a traditional narrative book and literally just like cut the book up and drew pictures around it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was honestly predicting that this whole thing was going to be, at the end, we were going to get a final part of a woman telling the story to her child or something.
No longer a creature of sand, the baby at Hippolyta's feet was made a girl, I can't read tonight, was a girl made flesh and blood. Her tiny cries pierced the night air and caused the waves to once again crash upon the shore. Hippolyta named the child Diana. The queen took her new daughter to the palace and presented the princess to her warrior sisters. All right, so this is where the story really gets going.
I love, by the way, that we're both pronouncing the queen's name differently.
So you have this island full of various women, and they are thrilled to death to have this baby around, and of course they spoil the baby rotten. So Diana kind of grows up to be an asshole. She's, they gave her all manner of clothing and toys and candy, but, as she starts to grow up, because she's been raised this way, she's, like, abusive to the nanny, and she won't go to her lessons, and she's a pain in the ass. And that's just how she is as a child, which made sense to me. A child who is, this spoiled is going to act this way. This to me rang true. What did you think?
Definitely. We've always seen in the storyline that Diana was the first child to grow amongst the Amazons. She was their youngest. She was their princess. But we've never given this story arc that, what would an island that only had one child would do? I mean, just think about, when you have a family and, with multiple brothers and sisters, and then you have your first grandchild, and think about how much that first grandchild is immediately spoiled and how the whole family just fawns over them.
Right. Oh, and by the way, she also has magic powers. She can fly. There's this
that's what you get when the gods cry tears of silver and gold to create life. It just comes along with it came along with the package.
Yeah, flying 9-year-olds. There's this bit here where she's torturing the nanny, and she's balancing herself on the rails, and she's like, get down from there, and then she just throws herself off the rails, and she starts to fly. And there's this great bit here with the mom. When scolded by Hippolyta for being so cruel, Diana charmed her way out of punishment. But, Mother, I was only practicing my flying. And it's not like Nanny can help me do that. Only the birds can teach me. See, she's so precocious.
Yeah, I love she's doing as well. She's decked out in her mother's jewels like she's been playing dress up the whole time.
and she gets away with it. She gets away with bullshit. They show her, like, stealing food from people at the table. She's like, she's like, don't mind me. I'm not hungry. I'll just pick. They show her. She's, like, yelling more. I want some more. Like, what's her name from Willy Wonka?
Veruca Salt.
Yeah, Veruca Salt. And, and the reaction is, what a fine appetite our princess has. So not a whole lot happens here. It's just a lot of showing her as a precocious and bratty child, and how they just indulged her and made excuses for her. It starts to get cooking a little bit as she gets to be older, and she meets the stable master, who is Alethea. And Alethea does not truck with her jive. She's like, she wants, she's got the attention of everybody. Everyone wants to sit next to her, But there's Alethea, who is okay eating lunch by a tree. Alethea just wants to mind the horses, take care of the horses. Has no time for Diana. And so, of course, Diana is totally fixated on her, which I also thought rang pretty true. You always want what you can't have.
Exactly. And I love that it goes from her just first she's trying to brag, and then she basically is wooing her. She's offering her gifts. She's sending musicians to serenade her while she's, bathing and everything else. It's just like, yeah, whatever, moving on.
The other thing that's happening around this time is Themyscira, while settled, there's still unknown and dangerous parts to it. And so, of course, there's don't go into the deep, deep woods, and that's the first thing Diana wants to do. And so they tell the story of how she fought this tentacled water creature, and this leads to her going on a whole bunch of adventures and bringing back a bunch of different treasures. Let's see here. There's a whole list of shit that she brought back. I'm trying to find it here.
I found the crystal dagger, the golden bracelets, the magic lasso, and the cold blue flame.
Yes. So some of the accoutrements that will eventually be part of her Wonder Woman ensemble, she found traipsing about Themyscira, battling odd and fierce beasts. And they sang songs about her, except for one. Althena couldn't give a shit less. And no matter what she does, no matter how she tries, she cannot get this woman's attention. So, along the way, there's and this is where the book gets to its glorious conclusion here. We have a competition. We have a games that's held.
The commemoration of warriors.
And so there's different events that she competes in, and we get to the big one, which is this chariot race.
Oh,
now,
it's important. It is important to point out that all of them wear masks, and it kind of looks like wigs, but then maybe that's just part of the mask. But the idea is that all of the Amazons have to compete anonymously.
Okay.
That way, no one shows any favor. If when they're fighting each other, if you're fighting against a friend or a loved one, you're not going to hold back.
So as she was gallivanting through Themyscira, and she was battling all these beasts, the one she didn't kill, she trapped in the silver serpent horn that she had found. Mm-hmm. And Diana thinks this would be a great idea if mid-race she blew, Johnny blow your horn. She blew the horn, and out come all manner of beasts and golems and whatnot.
She basically opened a window into the Lovecraft dimension.
Yeah. So she opens Pandora's box, and out come all these creatures, and she's thinking, well, this will cause a distraction, and I'll win the race. Like, she couldn't, just win it on her own. She had to, cheat and secure victory for herself. What she doesn't realize is that the beast get out of control, and they cause all the rest of the horses to buck and run wild, and we have a giant pileup of Amazons. And so she won the race. Good for her. But she caused all manner of damage in the meantime. So she realizes what she's done. She does not just leave these people to suffer. And she gets in there and she fights the monsters, but by that point, it's too late. And at one point, actually, I believe it's Alethea who actually has to help her out, and she ends up getting killed by one of the monsters.
It's interesting, though, because Alethea, again, all of the Amazons are anonymous in this battle, and they have not taken off their masks or their wigs during this. So we have this woman, who we find out later is Alethea, who is dressed in Wonder Woman-style armor. She's got the red top with the gold on her bustier. She's got the blue star-spangled bottoms. And I just thought that was so interesting that Diana's running around, but it's not Diana who is dressed in the traditional Wonder Woman garb. and it is not Diana who is leading the charge to slay the majority of these monsters. You know, it's someone who looks like the image we have of Wonder Woman, but it isn't her.
Yep. So there's this two-headed beast, and she jumps in to attack it. Diana jumps in there, and it's too late. The beast has mangled poor Alethea, and she dies.
Shook her like a rag doll and tossed her aside. Just went after her like Eddie does with his chew toy.
So the Amazonians that could fight jumped in there, and not only did she hurt and maim in this escapade a whole bunch of her fellow sisters, but they didn't kill or capture all the beasts. So some fled to the forest, some to the sea, and some took to the air. These half animals, mythological monsters, and mad things were now loosed upon the world. So yeah, she not only, as I said, hurt and maimed and killed her fellow sisters, but she let loose a bunch of monsters loose on Earth.
Yeah, and this book does not spare you from all of the details. They talk about horses that had to be euthanized because they had their legs broken. Mm-hmm. We got one girl who's been paralyzed, one who was essentially drug on the ground with her face on the ground, so she's going to be permanently scarred. You have one who has suffered brain damage.
Yeah, that was pretty vicious.
Yeah, they do not hold back. This is not a case of, look at what you've done, Diane, and they let the audience, kind of put two and two together. No, they are telling you just how bad things got.
And so Diana thinks to herself, no, this should not have happened. It was just supposed to be a distraction. This is what I mean by Diana's kind of a dumbass. How did you think this was going to end? Apparently not well.
Mm-hmm.
This is wrong. I always capture. I always win. So, she has such high hubris, and she's really taken down a notch by what she's done here. And, of course, then it's, they don't know who did it yet. Everyone's still wearing their mask. But Diana takes off her mask, and that's when the crowd realizes, holy shit, the princess is the one that wrought so much havoc. She realizes at the end of all of this is when she realizes that it was Althea who had died, and she says, Althea, no, I did it for you. I'm so sorry. I wanted to win, to be your champ, which I don't think would have mattered to Althea, and that's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
So the queen comes down, and she was like, who did this? And everyone sort of points to Diana. She's the guilty party. And so... let's see. In all my life, through all my battles, I have never been so defeated. This is her mother. I am saddened beyond words. Yeah, I've never been this level. My kids have never done anything this disappointing. Like, they've never hurt anyone. But I really felt for Hippolyta here because, she's like, you just want to love your child and you want to give them everything, and the urge to spoil and the urge to helicopter and lawnmower, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, totally.
Jesse and I have talked about this before. Actually, you have to tell them what a lawnmower parent was. It's there, and people go through it. You want to do for your children, but but this is what happens when you helicopter and lawnmower and you don't let them learn from their mistakes and you don't teach them early on not to be this way. They will undoubtedly make such a terrible mistake that you'll end up like Hippolyta here, who's like, what did I do? How did we get here?
You really do feel for her. I mean, I think every parent is scared of the moment that could potentially happen where they realize they have messed up and there is no undoing what has been done. It's like it's just realizing that you have been on this path and you've let your child stay on this path, and you cannot save them now. You can't undo the way they've already walked down everything.
Right. Yeah, the horse has already left the barn.
Yeah.
And so there's a little bit more with Diana and Hippolyta here, and Hippolyta's just beside herself. Of course, they have to deal with the fact that she did all of this, and and so what punishment, must be bestowed on Diana? How are they going to handle this? And I'll tell you what, Jill Thompson does not hold back.
No.
Like, there's no, well, you fucked up, but you're our Diana, so it's okay. No, she, after they deal with the funeral for Althea, Alethea, this is what I wanted to read here. You have been blessed above all Amazons, yet you choose your talents for selfish purposes. My sisters, what punishment shall be given to my daughter? And the paralyzed chick yells, death. Death! No, maim her as we are maimed. Crush her legs. And the one whose face got dragged against the concrete. Burn her face. Take away her beauty. And the crowd grumbled loudly. It's like a Simpsons episode. Burn, I agree. Hobble her, yes. Scar her, no mercy, yes. Death, we came for blood.
Tear this place apart.
And then you have one who yells out, do not hurt the princess. And this is where they decide that she's got to go. She's got to leave Themyscira. And so she's exiled. The argument here is, do not make the queen order the death of her child. What good would come of it? And so they gave her the girdle. They gave her the armor of Alethea. They gave her the bracelets and the lasso and the silver serpent horn shall remind you of your deeds and misdeeds. And they kick her out. They're like, go, do good things. And the enchanted crown that you so coveted shall be upon your brow, like a crown of thorns. So it really does change, if you look at the history of Wonder Woman, minus the bondage part, she's like the all-American girl. She's got the eagle on the chest, and she's got the star-spangled panties, and, it's supposed to be something good and something pure and something heroic. And she is just wearing, an entire tribute to her giant fuck-up.
Yeah, there's always been various versions that have talked about why Wonder Woman is wearing what she does. I think one of my favorite ones is that in that storyline when she was chosen to be the ambassador to go to America after Steve Trevor had landed on Themyscira, they gave her the uniform and said, we're going to don you in the colors of the American flag so that when you go there, they will know that you represent peace and understanding and the idea that we want our two worlds to coexist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this takes it in a completely different way.
Yeah. For you will not be able to remove it until you have made up for your ills you have caused, and until that day you shall never again set foot upon the golden shores of Themyscira. The queen turned her back and cried. The crowd parted as the princess outfitted herself and made her way out of the city. And so it was that Princess Diana was banished from paradise. She journeyed across the sea, and even now she wanders the world defending the weak, righting wrongs, and fighting evil. But those are stories for another day, and that's how the book ends. So that's my one complaint about the book. Because I like the story. I like that she rode high on the horse, and she was brought low by her own hubris, and that she was cast out of paradise. I think that's a story that we can all identify with. That's certainly a story that's woven into our artistic narrative. It's certainly woven into our religious narrative. The idea of losing paradise, that's as old as time itself. And so all that, I think, works in the story. It just ends abruptly. You don't, it's like, those are stories for another day. No, those are the stories you should be telling. At least, throw a couple of panels out there, of her fighting Cheetah or something. You don't get. She's just casted out, and she's never really redeemed. She does nothing in the story that redeems her for what she did. You just get that she went out and she did good deeds, and she was forever having to live this down. But that's all you get.
Yeah, I'm reading this on a digital format, and when it got to the end, but that's a story for another time. I assumed that I had just gone to like the first part of the book. There's a running joke whenever you have me read books that have multiple parts that I'll screw up and forget how many I'm supposed to read. So then we get to the recording. It's like, okay, we're just reading the first book. And I'm like, so what the hell did I read all 5 books for? So I assume like, oh, okay, there's another book here. What do you mean that's the end?
Yeah, that was it. You know, when I first picked it up, I was like, all right, I know I'm in for... I watched it after... I read it, rather, last night after I was done with NXT, and I figured I'd be up for a while, and I'm like, that was a really short read. Like, I shot through this.
I read half of it last night, fell asleep, woke up today, read the other half, and I told my husband, who's working from home like me, I was like, okay, hon, I'm going to be reading this book for a while. Got to the end, I'm like, I messaged you. I was like, you want to record early? Because I thought this was going to take a lot longer. I forgot you were already at work.
So what did you think of it? First of all, what did you think of Jill Thompson here? This is, if you don't know anything about Jill Thompson, she has done a lot in comics, more than you might think, as a matter of fact. She's done... She's a writer, penciler, inker, cover artist, colorist, letterer. She is married to Brian Azzarello. I don't know if you knew that. I just learned that for the first time. Anyway, what did you think of her as a writer on this book? I'm going to quick pull up her other accomplishments.
Yeah, I was looking up her Wikipedia page. She's worked on Sandman. She created the Scary Godmother series.
Yes.
Actually, if you've read Scary Godmother, which I haven't read, but I've seen pages of it from kids that I used to babysit and how much they loved it. So I can definitely see a parallel with the artistic style.
She designs ring attire for Daniel Bryan. That's fascinating.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's see. She has worked on, you said Scary Godmother. She worked on a Batman book.
I give credit to anyone who gets to work with Neil Gaiman. Ultimate goal for any illustrator.
So, yeah, she's not new to the comic book scene at all. And like I said, she won Eisner Awards in the early 2000s. She won Best Humor Publication for Bart Simpson's Treehouse of Horror in 2000. 2001, she won Best Painter Multimedia for Scary Godmother for Interior Art. 2001, Best Title for a Younger Audience, Scary Godmother, The Boo Flu. She won the 2004 Eisner for Best Painter Multimedia Artist for Stray, The Dark Horse Book of Hauntings. 2005 for Best Short Story, Unfamiliar in the Dark Horse Book of Witchcraft. And 2007, Painter Multimedia Artist for A Dog and His Boy, another Dark Horse Book of Monsters. And she's been nominated for a bunch of other stuff for Scary Godmother.
I was just looking at some of her other stuff. I'm looking at Beasts of Burden, which is a Dark Horse comic, but that looks pretty interesting. I might have to order that. No, she's really got some, just an incredible bibliography here. But there is no denying that not everyone is going to like this take on Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. I love seeing a character that we all know and love and seeing a potential new origin story for them, as long as they're not trying to go a little too crazy. I think we've all seen someone say, like, no, this is how it really happened, and we all just looked at them and was like, quit trying too hard. But this was very interesting, not to mention, I think, a bit understandable. I mentioned before, it's like, what happens when an entire village is given one child? Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course this kid's going to be spoiled. And so much of it was very understanding and a little on the relatable side.
I've heard, so here's some criticisms of the book that I read. One, they didn't like the fact that Diana was, shit for brains until she, committed this horrible act. They didn't like the idea that her whole being as Wonder Woman is making up for this horrible error. I actually disagree with that. I liked that about, I don't like my characters to be, like that's my problem with Superman. He's sort of as pure as the driven snow. He can't. He grew up on a nice farm. He was good old American values, and he went on to live, to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. And it's like, you know.
Yeah, no, you like heroes that are spurned by a reason to need to use their powers. Barry Allen with the death of his parents,
Right?
Spider-Man with his Uncle Ben.
It's like tragedy gives us the best grist for the mill for our superheroes.
Agreed, and I could take either version of Wonder Woman. Honestly, I kind of like the original backstory that she was, that she, fought hard to become the, what's the ambassador for Themyscira. I do like that, but I like this too, and I don't think you have to choose one or the other. Not to mention, Wonder Woman in recent years has had her canon backstory rewritten. It's now become canon that she was not molded from clay specifically, but she is literally the demigod daughter of Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
So
which I'm also fine with.
Yeah, like I said, Zeus is number one priority. Can I put my dick in it? Apparently he thought the same thing with Hippolyta.
Well, one of the comments that I had read when I was picking through, when I was reading some background on the book was, Wonder Woman was always, and you can see this in, whatever book we read earlier in the year, where the Batman, Superman, and her are all voting on who should be in the Justice League. And, and Batman and Superman are always on, like, polar opposite end, and she's always, like, the decider vote. She's actually the one where they're arguing over this and that. And she's like, let's just vote on it already. Like, she is the calming influence between Batman and Superman. She's the one that keeps them from strangling each other. And so people had a hard time reconciling that modern Wonder Woman with this younger Wonder Woman. But I'm like, isn't that life? That they say youth is wasted on the young. You kind of, to one degree or another, I think we're all assholes, as kids. And then you learn through trial and error and mistakes, and you gain wisdom over time, and you hopefully open up your ears and you listen to people who know better than you. And you eventually become more mature, and you make less mistakes, and you're able to help the people younger than you. You see what I'm saying? I think that all works for Wonder Woman's total character.
Yeah. It is great to see a character that we know is going to go through growth and change. Again, if you want to sit back and say you prefer the original version of Wonder Woman, where she was the ambassador who was chosen because she was the best, that's fine. There is nothing wrong with that story arc. But if you want to say you enjoyed this one more, go for it. These are all really good origin stories, and I think they all work towards her character.
So, Jill Thompson worked on X-Men Unlimited number 32, Dazzler Beyond the Music, in 2001. I need to read that now.
Hopefully she gives her better credit than Dark Phoenix did.
All right. Anything else about this book that you want to talk about before we close up for the night?
Again, this is a really... I do wish that it had expanded a little bit more. It does end very abruptly. It's a quick read, and I kind of wish they had gone into it a bit more. I would have liked to have seen this Diana's first reaction to the world around her. This Diana's first battle. This Diana's first realization of, I need to do good, not just to get back to the Amazons, but because it is the right thing to do.
Yeah, this needs another volume. Jill Thompson needs to add a second part to this story.
Agreed. Hell, have her meet Steve Trevor. Have her show up at World War II during this. There's no problem with... there's nothing on this storyline that says, no, this can't happen at the same time as World War II. Go ahead and go back and have that. Have her meet Steve Trevor. Mm-hmm. I think that would be a great story arc.
Yeah, I would not mind seeing... I would like to see a volume written by Jill Thompson where you see Wonder Woman in various historical periods. Have her traipsing through the Roman Empire. Have her, there at the French Revolution. Have her, the American Revolution, the Civil War. Have her go back to Europe during the Russian Revolution. Just have her in all these nine revolutions. Have her be at all these different historical periods, and what was her influence and that sort of thing, and what kinds of things she learned over time. I think that would be an interesting way of looking at, the prism to look at Wonder Woman.
Agreed.
All right,
and I think that's what they were kind of trying to go with the live action film, since we got 1984 coming out.
Yeah,
which was. Yeah, can we all just have a moment to sigh and just in annoyance at the fact that we were supposed to be reviewing that before everything blew up in our face?
Well, now it's coming out Christmas Day, and so we'll do a Damn You Hollywood for it on December 29th. And the Wonder Woman book that you and I are going to do for that week is Wonder Woman Come Back to Me, which was a 6-issue limited series. We'll talk about it a little bit more when it gets a little bit closer, but... I'm looking forward to reading that. That one features Cheetah. That one, she's actually searching for Steve Trevor in that series. So I thought it goes really well with the movie.
You do, of course, realize though, since you actually wrote it down in the schedule, it's going to get delayed again.
Hush your face. All right. So next week, I'm actually going to have both of you here, both my Lucy's, Alexis and Christiane. Are going to join me for Lucifer Volume 1, Devil in the Gateway. Now, this first trade, let me kind of break this down here. Initially, I told Alexis, go get yourself Lucifer Book 1, and I was going to do the first 13 issues, but I can't read that many issues and get through them in one podcast. So I said, hey, let's break this up a bit. Now, as it turns out, the initial run of trade paperbacks broke it down to where the first one was Lucifer, Sandman, something or other, issues 1 through 3, and then the first 4 issues of the Lucifer solo series. So we're actually going to do, the trade is called Devil in the Gateway, and we're going to look at the first 4 issues of the Lucifer solo run out of the 70 that there are. So that's what we're going to talk about next week on Source Material Live with Alexis, Hana, and Chris Sheehan. And then Chris Sheehan and I are going to look at both Betty Page Halloween specials on October 19th, and then finally The Death of Hawkman on October 26th. Plus, myself and Robert Winfrey are going to do a comic strip for The Empty Man. Assuming that movie doesn't get moved again, we'll watch the movie and we'll read the book that goes with it, and we'll talk about it on October 27th. But that's not... What?
I said knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. But that's not all. Alexis is not done for the month of October. No, not by a long shot. She and a few others will be joining me on a TV party to discuss all 5 seasons that have dropped, or 5.5 seasons, of Lucifer. First 3 seasons were on Fox, and then the next 1.5 seasons were on Netflix. We're still waiting on the next half a season of season 5, and then finally season 6 will eventually come out. In the meantime, we'll discuss what's already out, Lucifer TV Party. And that's not all. Alexis Hana, on October 27th, she, myself, and Robert Winfrey, apparently, who knew, we're going to talk The Witches, which was supposed to come out in theaters, has instead going to be on HBO Max October 22nd. We'll talk about it on the 27th. And then finally, Chris Bailey. Friday night's all right for fights, but it's also all right to talk about The Craft. Yeah, The Craft 2020, The Craft Legacy, which is going to be released on Amazon Prime at midnight between the 27th and the 28th. So midnight, October 28th, it gets released. And we'll talk about it Friday, October 30th, right in time for Halloween. How about that?
So that's me and Chris Bailey, right?
No, Chris Bailey's not going to be on the show. Whenever I say finally, I always say Chris Bailey.
Oh.
Chris Bailey.
Don't confuse me like that.
So,
I have a hard time keeping my schedule straight.
So you wanted to be on some shows, you're on some shows. How about that?
Oh, come on. The only thing I have actually gone out and done in recent history was getting to be the event photographer for the Vampire Night at Pawn and Pint here in Kansas City.
You know what you should do? You should get yourself the Fight app. Get yourself the Fight app, and on October 10th, you should watch Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and we should review it. Yeah, that should be the first wrestling event you've watched since you and Sean used to watch Monday Night Raw. You could say, I haven't watched wrestling since I used to be with Sean, and then the first thing Mark makes me watch is Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Come on. You know you're intrigued now. Effie's Big Gay Brunch? Eh?
This is what I put up with, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not kidding. It's a real thing.
I know you're not kidding. Even you could make up that shit.
There's a real wrestler. His name is Effie, and he's doing an LGBTQ wrestling event called Effie's Big Gay Brunch. I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see it. I'll be at work. I'll watch it when I get home. I see. It's moments like that I wish I could just plug in like cricket sounds. All right.
Well, if you took as much time editing the show as Jesse used to, you could have. But then you'd also have to put up with me and Robert getting sidetracked for 2 hours.
Yeah, editing, spending. All right. Tomorrow we're reviewing NXT TakeOver 31, and then we had an audit in the schedule, an audible, because apparently the John Dolleman album sucks. So we're going to do Ace Frehley Origins Volume 2. That's a covers album from our man from Kiss. So we'll talk about that on the Metal Hammer of Doom this week. Last week we did Stars and Stripes, the first 6 issues. We did the first season of Stargirl. We reviewed Clash of the Champions, BPMD American Made, and finally Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 7. So that is all in the archives. All right, go ahead and do your plug.
Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We just uploaded a ton of new merchandise, especially some special items for this spooky season. Sorry, Halloween's my favorite holiday. I tend to go a little nuts with that sort of stuff. But we have a couple of new hair barrettes and hairpins inspired by Nightmare Before Christmas. I have been wanting for as long as I can remember to go ahead and celebrate that. That is one of my all-time favorite movies, one of my favorite fandoms, and I'm so happy we got pieces of it now on the shops. We have 8 brand new wire wrap dice necklaces, including several D20s. Go ahead and check them out. We're going to be getting everything ready for the holiday season. Yes, I know I said Halloween's my favorite holiday, but it's still less than 100 days away from Christmas. And those who run their own business know you need to plan this sort of crap in advance. So we're going to be getting ready for that. Sorry, I started to choke on my own spit there. Needed to hide away from the cough. As always, you can find our stuff on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. Take a look at our Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter pages to get updates on new items, appearances, and shops that our stuff will be available in. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, thanks for joining us here on Source Material Live. We had fun talking Wonder Woman tonight. Next week, Lucifer. Until then, be well, be safe, and behave.